Indian, ladles, jelly spoons, baby bells, and gemstones. So, it's Monday, the 7th of July 2025, and therefore it's only appropriate, as well as necessary, to remember the atrocities which happened across London unbelievably 20 years ago today. As it says in the description, originally it was all being put down to a power surge across the Transport for London underground network, as 4 tube trains exploded pretty much within minutes of each other. So it's blamed on a power surge. Byron, welcome to you. It was not until, most likely Will, hello to you, my friend. It was not until a bus exploded in Tavistock Square, where literally it was deemed very, very obvious this was an extremist terrorist attack on London. The irony being, literally 24 hours earlier, London was named as host of the Olympics for the following year. Is that a coincidence, you reckon? Or do you think it was planned? Do you think there were people waiting in Paris, who of course we were up against, for the Olympic bid for 2006? Danny, welcome back, my friend. You guys are recognised as top fans as well. Happy days. Yeah, literally 24 hours before the bombs exploded in London, London was named as host of the 2006 Olympic Games. Which makes me wonder, was there a group of people waiting in Paris just in case they were also named winner? Really sorry, I can't understand a word your message says. Can you write that in English, please? Messi, hello. So, the London bombings of 2005 took many, many lives. Granted, I haven't looked into how many. I should have done, really. Anshu, hello. But it affected a lot of people, whether you're working in London or whether you're working away from London. Trying to contact anyone who was in this city at the time was an absolute logistical nightmare. I myself was working in Leicester as a traffic and travel presenter for a local radio station at the time. And originally we were told, obviously it was a power surge that occurred on the underground network. And as we say, wasn't until the bus exploded at about 8:40 in the morning in Tavistock Square, it very, very quickly became apparent it was obviously a terrorist attack. And that was at that point, all of us stayed on later to do our travel presenting, giving the advice not to travel into London. There was fuck action there. Ugh. And that travel advice stayed in place for a good 24 to 36 hours. Blue, hello my friend, welcome back to the channel. And Danny, do you know what? Kind of agree with you. But then in 2005, we had a Conservative government, as we all know. I believe it was it David Cameron at the time, possibly? It might have been David Cameron and Nick Clegg who came in after, to be fair. But it was a horrific situation. Gracie, hello to you. This is very true, Danny, and I'm not disputing that for a second. Not in any way, shape or form. But yeah, it was a horrific day. Phone lines across the country melted, literally. Like every single phone network just went down. Um, Myself as well, trying to contact people who are in London, whether they've been friends, family, or whoever. It took the best part of about 12 hours to even get the slightest bit of phone signal to make any phone calls. It was a horrendous day, and like I said, so many people either lost limbs, um, fatally injured if they were really close to the blast area, or literally had life-changing injuries and conditions. Now, thankfully, nobody that I knew was really actually um, involved in that. But I'm all right, thank you, Gracie. How are you? How are you and Nate doing? Um, but it was a horrific day to have 4 tube trains uh, literally pop almost instantaneously at exactly the same or simultaneously at the same time was kind of crazy. Originally, you get like a report of one or two, then a third, then a fourth, and about 15 minutes later, a bus. Obviously, at that point, you can't turn around and go, well, it's a power surge causing a bus to explode, because that shit doesn't happen. Um, and yeah, it was crazy. It all happened in 2005, yeah. July the 7th, 2005, like I said, it started just like any other day across London. So everybody was literally going to work or doing the school run as they normally would do, or drop the kids off at school, get on the tube, go to work, etc., as normal. My own family, to be fair, like doing exactly that. But then, of course, when a train explodes, the entire network just shuts down. Um, and people that were on trains that weren't even affected by those blasts were stuck on the underground for hours, to be honest. And it was a very horrific scene. Like, you know, you're watching on screens and stuff of the cameras all across London, just seeing people being brought out of underground stations on actual stretchers, makeshift stretchers, etc., in one hell of a state. Like, it was undeniably horrific. Um, and yeah, at the end of the day, like, the news does lie to keep us hearing what they want us to hear. Uh, and yeah, you're right. You are very right. But at the same time, like, on something of that scale, I think to begin with, nobody actually wanted to believe it actually was a terrorist attack. Because obviously there hadn't been one in London for such a long time before that. So nobody really wanted to believe that was the situation. And I suppose a power surge was proven that it could potentially do that to a train, if it hit at just the right moment and, you know, sends too much electricity down the line, things can go wrong. Um, but yeah, it was a horrific time. And what really bothers me more than anything else is the fact that, like, everybody knows about 9/11 from 2001, right? It's spoken about over and over and over and over and over and over again. What really bugs me is nobody really talks about the July 7 bombings anymore. Um, it was Al Qaeda who took responsibility for it. Whether that means they were actually the ones responsible, no one's really going to know, Danny. But they are the ones who, like, took responsibility. Now, like I say, is it coincidental the fact that we won the Olympics 24 hours before, Jumpy, I'm not even going to answer that question because I know exactly what you're trying to get me to say, and it's not going to happen. So, was it coincidental that we won the Olympics 24 hours beforehand and then that happened? Or was it literally a case of it was going to happen anyway? So, if we hadn't won the Olympic bid 24 hours beforehand and Paris got it, would Paris have been the ones that had been targeted? Or was it literally a case of the fact that we were going to get blasted anyway? Because at the end of the day, the coincidences on that situation are just way too crazy. Can the moderator put Jumpy Marvis into timeout, please? So yeah, literally, it was a horrific day. It was a really nasty situation. But yeah, it's just been absolutely, it's just horrific that no one talks about it like nowadays. So what do you guys think? Like, I mean, it was a horrible day. And I think anyone who was actually in London at the time will absolutely agree it was it was just horrible. I mean, brings us back nicely to Grenfell Tower. Like when that happened, cheers, Blue. People thought Grenfell Tower was a terrorist incident until the cause of the fire was actually proven. Now, that was only 8 years ago. And again, so many people lost their life or had life changing injuries and conditions. What scares me is the fact that that could quite easily happen again. I mean, it's a no brainer. It could very easily happen again. But why is it not spoken about? Why, as a nation, because even going through Facebook today, very few people have actually put anything about the July 7 bombings on their Facebooks. Why? It's on mine. Because at the end of the day, I'm a true believer people need to carry on talking about it. It's fucked. We let so many in the boats, etc. That's got to be an end point, like the government's just pushing towards a civil war. Danny, at the end of the day, mate, I think the civil war's already started. Like the amount of people who are terrified, even across this country, that actually like World War III is going to like happen imminently. It's kind of crazy. Like, at the end of the day, due to like extremists and stuff, you're never ever going to live in a world where there's not going to be some form of terrorism. Like, it's never going to happen. It will continue to happen, or there's going to be somebody who's going to take offense to somebody else and just go for it, which again is kind of crazy because it just makes you wonder, realistically, how safe are we as a nation? You know, I mean, I completely defied the odds about voting for Brexit as soon as it started turning racist, because I refuse to be classed as like one of these racist minorities. Like, I don't care if there's Polish, Romanians, Kurdish, Turkish, or whoever living in my country. I don't care about them. If they're like happy to go around doing honest work, you know, honest jobs, etc., let them carry on. But it's the ones that are here and want to make a living from crime and go around like, you know, raping people, murdering people, and all this sort of stuff. It's like, why are we putting them in our prison? Just send them home. Send them back to their country to be dealt with. Like, we should. The worst thing as well about these like suicide bombers that did the July 7 bombings in 2005 is they were all under the scrutiny of our special forces here in the UK. So how the fuck was that allowed to happen? Because I'm not being funny. If they're already being watched, observed, and scrutinized by, I suppose, special forces over here, surely their actions, their activities, their day-to-day life should be scrutinized within, well, with a fine-tooth comb, like to stop them being able to make devices and stuff which could potentially obliterate an entire travel network, for example, causing massive loss of life. Like, why are they not being watched more closely? Uh, War is just a power trip. Danny, you're not wrong. You know, like look at the whole situation in Russia. Like, talk about throwing your toys out the tram, like out your pram, just to get a little bit of bloody like land back. Why? Why are we so controlled by borders and, oh, that's my bit of land once upon a time, so I now want it back? I mean, that sort of bullshit happens between like neighbours of like, you know, gardens, etc. Shouldn't be happening in countries where you're literally annihilating millions upon millions of like innocent people. Same with terrorism. Why is terrorism allowed to be a thing? Because again, all you're doing is you're wiping out hundreds of people that have done fuck all wrong. Like, will I genuinely turn around and say to you how long it took to get hold of people that are in London on that day? It's horrific, right? I'm not a racist, but you want to be here, then be here and live by how we live. But freedom of speech will be nothing soon. It's already nothing, man. Look at how many people get cancelled because they speak their mind. Look at how many like content creators and stuff panic about talking about certain situations because they might get cancelled. You know, it's not right. And at the end of the day, I think it's where people like, or content creators, especially like myself, who just sit back and go, right, do you know what? Cool. If you want to pull the plug on my channel, go for it. But I'm not going to sit back and allow any form of extremist group terrorize and take over my country, take away my human right to be a human. Like, sorry, what? At the end of the day, right, what happened in July 2005 should never have happened, in my opinion. Like, scenes like that behind me should never have been a thing. Like, no train should ever, ever, ever be obliterated by something like that. By a group of people who seem to think it's okay and acceptable to do that to innocent people. Sorry, what? That sort of shit's not acceptable. In a confined little tunnel, hundreds of meters underground. Hence why it's called the Underground Network of London. Sorry, what? You think that's acceptable? Then give your head a wobble. Like, hundreds of people were caught up in that. Mate, it's loss of civilians, in it, civilians, innocent people, and they come here and take it. It's wrong. At the end of the day, mate, that's what happens in war zones, isn't it? They'll go and find somewhere else to live, another safe country. My biggest issue, and bearing in mind, I've been in Dover today, right, watching all across the channel from France to here, right, and there's a little boat coming over, and you sat there thinking, like, what are you doing? Granted, it got intercepted and got turned back or towed back. But so that's Facebook because people are going mad on my status, and it's like, well, you know, argue amongst yourselves. Like, it's crazy. Um, but at the end of the day, like, we shouldn't be allowing anyone in this country who's got any form of record. These people should be like registered properly once they cross into our shores. But the problem is they come under the cover of darkness, and trust me, the Kent coastline is vast. Yeah, you're not going to have people to be able to watch every last inch of that coastline and take it from someone who's local to the area. Right, those coastlines go on and on and on. And let's face it, those boats could literally land anywhere. It's always weird how it's the southeast. Why? Because you've got easy access to London in not very long time, right? QI bend over. Danny, what are you like, man? But genuinely, like, you honestly have to take a step back, because scenes like that right there, that's not okay. That is not an acceptable thing for people to be living in fear of every day. Thankfully, London's a very resilient city, and even despite what happened the day before, Londoners were straight back out to work the very next day. We weren't mamby-pamby and fucking around with like, oh, it's too dangerous to go back out. Fuck off. What? You know, look at New York. Okay, prime example of New York, right? 9/11 happened. Some of them never went back to work. They were too scared to set foot outside their front door. Why? Why were you scared? I went to Los Angeles in December 2001, right? And bear in mind, I was 16. Yeah, 16 years old, going out to Los Angeles 3 months after a terrorist attack, right? And so many people were saying to me, like, you're crazy. Why are you going out to a country where there's just been a massive terrorist attack? I'm like, because it's the safest time to go. Legitimately, it is the safest time to go. And they're like, well, how can you say that? Because everyone's on their absolute top of everything. So security is more stepped up. Like, okay, it takes longer to get through security, passport control, all that kind of malarkey. Like, everyone gets scrutinised within an inch of their life. But it stops things like that happening. Boom. If you've got to go through so much more security, it's the most safest thing to do. It's the most logical time to go. And my dad, who worked in the airline industry, I said to him, I was like, am I stupid going to America? And even he said, security's never been stronger. Like, you get on an internal flight in America now, you have the same security as if you're going like to a different country. Whereas before, it was like getting on and off a plane, getting on and off a bus or a train. Like a commuter. Just, yep, straight in, no showing ID, straight in, straight through, done. Well, it shouldn't be like that. You know, even in this country, even now, you have to show some form of ID before getting on a plane to go on an internal flight in this country, whether you're going from London to Scotland or wherever. Like, you've got to show ID. You've got to prove that you're, you know, you are the person on that ticket, to prevent things like this, to prevent another repetition of 9/11. Cockpit doors and stuff are always locked now during flight to prevent some little wannabe flipping terrorists get access to the cockpit. Not gonna lie, we go to war, we are fucked. No roadman gonna actually want to be stand up. Exactly. This is the point. You see all these like gangs of people and stuff, like hanging around the streets and stuff in the evenings and trying to belittle their communities into like thinking that they're the dog's bollocks. But the reality is, you turn around to them and go, right, you're going to war. They'll be like, fuck off, bruv. Nah, mate. Off you fuck. Go fight for your country. Go and do something worthwhile with your life. You know, sacrifice yourself if you absolutely have to. Because at the end of the day, surely protecting your country is far more important than smoking a bit of green around the bike sheds at fucking 7:30 at night. Or in your park with a little bit of Frosty Jacks next to you. Like, honestly, I agree with you, man. At the end of the day, like, if you want to be part of a gang, Yeah, leave your weapons, your knives, like your shanks and all that shit. Leave them at home. Go and be a real man. Yeah, use your fists. Like, you know, back in the good old day, you wouldn't dream about going, stabbing someone. If you got beef with someone, you go and knock their block off. Like, it's just the way it was. Whereas now, oh yes, who's got the biggest blade and all this sort of shit, and who's going to use their blade first? Nah, because the funny thing is, you see them people on their own, they're the nicest people in the world to you, genuinely. But the best thing that happened after the most horrific day in modern day history of London is literally the fact that the very next day, London was so resilient, literally stuck up two fingers and was like, you don't scare me. I ain't gonna fucking be a pussy and not go to work today. I'm not gonna like not get on a train or a bus or whatever. Like, I'm doing this shit. Like, let's do it. Like, even now, people think I'm nuts for going on the tube in London. It's like, why? Like, why am I crazy? At the end of the day, like, it's the tube. Probably one of, again, probably one of the safest ways to get around London, because taxi drivers, bus drivers, and the amount of cyclists are crazy, right? And it's a scary time. Like, but also you could be starting a bus for about 20 minutes and not go anywhere because the traffic's so shit in London. Whereas you get on the tube, you're guaranteed to bypass that bus like a million times over because you're underground. Yeah, you don't have Doris taking 3 hours to cross the road, or some dickhead who's like gone the wrong turn on a roundabout and then just swerved off at the last minute, causing an accident, for example. And you've not got a barrage of a million and one bloody traffic lights all over the place like you have in London. So yeah, tube is by far the quickest way around the city. Or the DLR. I mean, I took a bus once, and I'm not going to lie to you, it took like an hour to do 2 miles. You're like, I could have fucking walked this quicker. Why did I get on a bus? Why did I pay out for this? Granted, you are going further afield, you get away from the city and stuff, then yeah, take a bus if you want to. Cool. Dude, I love the tube too, man. 100%. But it is safe. It is a safe, easy, brilliant invention. And you know what? I'll give him his due. It's probably the only thing that Sadiq Khan has actually got his finger on the pulse with. Making sure that London transport works for people of London. Where he's got his bright idea about the bloody ULEZ zone and upping the congestion charge to £15 a day, I've no idea. I was literally in London on Friday with your co-presenter. So we were doing the last part of our 24,000 Spoons challenge, which is still being uploaded, edited, etc., as we speak. Or sorry, downloaded off our cameras, edited, etc. And it will be on the channel very soon, I promise you that much. But it costs like 30 quid to go through London. Once you paid the ULEZ charge, you paid the congestion charge. I mean, thankfully we found some free parking. Quite hard to do, granted, around the city of London, but we still managed to do it. But 30 quid to drive through London with your congestion charge and your ULEZ charge. Sorry, Sadiq, what the fuck is wrong with you? And then on top of that, you're paying for like the Blackwall Tunnel and now the Silvertown Tunnel. Fuck off, mate. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Ken Livingstone brought in the Woolwich Ferry. That's still free. Has been free the entire time. I begrudge paying to travel through a tunnel, which as far back as I can remember in my driving career, has been free for the last 20 years. Why have I now got to suddenly pay for it? Like, it's been free for 20 years. If not longer than that. So, take your charge and show up your arsehole. You go to the Dartford crossing. That's free between 10 at night and 6 in the morning. Granted, that's most of the time I try and travel down to between those times because I'll begrudge paying £2.50. I think it's a farcical fucking shit. But it's £2.50. Like, it's not the end of the world. And if you're in peak times, okay, cool. I'll pay for that. I'll pay for that luxury of going through a tunnel at fucking 40 miles an hour. Because it's a lot quicker than going the other way around the fucking 25. But at the end of the day, scenes like that above or behind me should never be a thing in the modern day. They might turn around and go, but it's not the modern day, Mackenzie, because it was 20 years ago. Right, okay, it was, yeah, 20 years ago. But at the same time, should we really become complacent? Should we really think, oh, yeah, it was 20 years ago, it's not going to happen again? Because if that's your mentality, give your head a wobble. 110% wobble your head if you think scenes like that will never happen again in this country. Because it's only a matter of time before they do. That is the scary reality of this situation. It's only a matter of time before something like that, or worse, happens again in this country. Like, did we learn nothing from 9/11 when they go and shove the Shard right in the city of London? Great building, fantastic workmanship, phenomenal, brilliant, well done. Congratulations on building it. But is that not just asking for trouble, being the tallest skyscraper in Europe? Like, who comes up with these ideas? Oh yeah, we can do bigger and better. Yeah? Bigger and better ain't always better. Bigger and better ain't always good. Right? I think the only decent thing that has come out on the underground recently has been things like the Elizabeth line. One, those trains are remarkably clean, and so they should be because it's still a very new line. Two, they're stupidly long, so you're guaranteed to get a seat no matter where you're going because there's always space. But also they're punctual. And most people on the Elizabeth line, because of what it represents, would not go and do something like that. Why? Because people had respect for the Queen. Even after her passing, they have respect for her. If I remember rightly, she made a public address after the atrocities of July 7, 2005. Even today, Prince William attended a memorial for the victims of 9/11, not 9/11, July 7. Not his dad, the actual monarch, or that thing he calls a wife, but Prince William did it. Now, if that's not being in touch with people, I don't know what is. Why Charlie doesn't just go, right, you know what, William, you're more popular than me. Like, take on the job, I can't be asked. I don't know. Because scenes like that, one, should never have happened in the first place. And two, should absolutely never happen again. No one should have to go through their life of being in fear of anything like that ever happening. No one should have to wait up to like 12 hours just to be able to use their phone to contact their relatives in London because they were too scared to go down there. And I'm not going to lie to you. Like, yeah, what should have been a 4-hour shift working as a travel presenter ended up being an entire day thing because it was just absolute chaos. Ambulance services were being sent from all over the country to go and help out with the demand down there because it was so intensely mad. And everyone just did it, just pulled together. Everyone stood firm together with London. And you know what? I still do. I don't think we should be forgetting those sort of scenes. I don't think we should be playing down the fact that hundreds of people lost arms, legs, other parts of their body, or even their lives that day. Why should we? Why should they have done that in vain and not be remembered? That's not right. Everybody should know about this. The fact Alex turned around earlier and was like, I knew nothing about this, even though I was 1 year old. Cool, you were 1 year old at the time. We're now 19 years in the future, and to never have heard about that, it's not being spoken about in schools, is disgusting. It's local English history. Let's stop talking about the Tudors and Stuarts and all the stuff that happened back in the 15th century. Let's now start talking about the history and the problems that's been going on in this country in the last 100 years. Stuff that's actually more relevant. Because let's face it, who really gives a fuck about Henry VIII? Right? Okay, yeah, he had 6 wives. What's that going to teach people? You can go around shagging people, cutting their heads off. Potentially. Fuck off. As if there's not enough violence and shit on the streets nowadays as it is. We need to be focusing on the here and now. So things like that don't happen again. So youngsters don't see things on TikTok or on YouTube or online and think that's an acceptable thing to do. Shouldn't be doing that. We should be teaching our youngsters right now that sort of shit should not happen. Shouldn't be allowed to happen. Yeah, she actually was the longest serving monarch in modern day history for 77 years, I think, in total. Fair play to her. Like, she was an amazing woman. Dude, I think it's odd too. Like, the end of the day, okay, yeah, they go, oh, we need to tell people about the gunpowder plot and all this. Why? Everyone knows about Guy Fawkes Night. It happens every fucking year. Yeah, November the 5th. Cool. Remember the 5th of November, gunpowder treason plot. That's all you need to know about. Some absolute pyromaniac dickhead tried to blow up the House of Parliament and wasn't successful. Brilliant. Cool. All right. But that also brings me to another point, actually, folks. So we celebrate what was the first recorded terrorist attack, although it was foiled on this country, on these shores, on this very, very island, right? We celebrate that every year with fireworks and a bonfire, right? So we can celebrate terrorism from like the 1600s. Is it any wonder that scenes like this end up happening like 400 years later? If it's celebrated, oh, they might celebrate me. I might become a hero. They might think I'm amazing. No. What is really needs to be spoken about is discussing that, one, the gunpowder plot was a completely stupid idea. Was an absolute bullshit fucking plan. And yeah, the dickhead got caught. But because we not fantasize, because we glorify all this bullshit and be like, oh yeah, like we celebrate this every year. Why are we celebrating a fucking an act of terrorism on these shores? And yet things like this don't get spoken about in schools. Where's the logic? Dude, it's weird. I've never understood why we actually celebrate an act of terrorism and then get like snowflakey about stuff like this and don't talk about it. We should talk about it. People died for absolutely no reason. I was going to say a different word, but I can't say it, and I don't embarrass myself on camera. But people died for no reason 20 years ago. Men, women, children, potentially on their way to school, either had to experience either being involved in that, seeing that, or could just potentially walking down the street and suddenly see a bus go bang. Imagine the trauma that child's going to go through for the rest of its life. Kids can't always explain what they're thinking, and it will hit them later on in life as well. They can walk past a bus one day and hear a noise which is similar to what they heard before and absolutely have the biggest PTSD moment of their life. So why aren't we discussing this? Why aren't we teaching it in school? Why are we not educating our younger people? I'll tell you why. Because schools probably aren't allowed to. Because we've gone so snowflakey, because we've gone so fucking pathetic about, oh, we can't offend people and all this. Fuck off, right? I have said from the very, very get-go on this channel, if you're going to get offended by something, right, this channel ain't for you. Because myself, my co-presenter, or any of your cameo presenters, we don't have filters. We'll call a spade, we'll call a cunt, right? Simple as that. At the end of the day, nobody had ever, ever, ever forget about this. Splodger, the Guy Fawkes plot could have brought down the Parliament. Well, yeah, it could have done, right? But I'm not being funny. Detonate that train at the right point. That could have also caused the downfall of Parliament. Because if you were under the Thames at just that right time, the whole of that water is going to go straight in them flipping tunnels. You're going to fuck up any foundations that are above you. So I get what you're saying, like bringing down the Parliament. But actually, realistically, with how shit Parliament is right now in this country, is that not giving people ideas to go, well, actually, if it's been full before, if we do it properly this time, then we can get rid of fucking Keir Starmer. Because let's face it, he's not exactly the most popular person right now. That's been completely proven by the fact people went and burnt down one of his houses. The fact that they burnt down one of his houses is probably the most worrying thing on that sentence. Because how many other houses has the fucking idiot got? Most of us are struggling to have one house, let alone fucking multiple. But even so, if we can talk about Guy Fawkes as an act of terrorism on this country, things like this should also be taught, because this was also an act of terrorism. You've also got the London Bridge guy who drove a van into crowds of people on London Bridge. Another act of terrorism. Why is that not spoken about? Another guy done a similar thing into a market full of people in Paris, right? Okay, granted, it's not English history, but it's still modern day related terrorism. Why is that not spoken about? Even 9/11 is barely taught about in school. Terrorism. Yeah? Aircraft from this country were heading that exact direction and either had to land or turn back and come back. He's a heavily compromised homosexual. Who? Who is? Not Keir Starmer. I swear he's got a wife. Well, I suppose that don't mean shit, to be fair, but there we go. But I'm just putting it out there, folks. Scenes like that, I don't want to ever see them again in my lifetime. The worrying thing is, I know at some point it will happen. Because it's a law of average. Yeah? It's one of them situations where you know sooner or later, someone's got that brilliant idea and go, boom. Do you not think the British government themselves are behind these events? I mean, that's conspiracy to a completely new level, but actually, moderator Danny said exactly the same thing earlier on. And they could well be. But again, it's conspiracy theory and no one actually knows, and let's face it, they're never going to own up to it. The biggest, weirdest thing for me on the whole situation with July 7 was the pure and simple fact that literally London had been named the host city for the 2006 Olympics literally the day before, like 24 hours earlier. And then, boom. Almost like someone's trying to go, ha, let's see how good you really are at being prepared for things. Because we clearly weren't prepared for that. Especially as our Secret Service, like I said earlier, were apparently watching and were very aware of the people who were responsible for this. Well, they weren't watching them that bloody well then, were they? Because I'm pretty sure you'd see someone walking out of their house with something that looks like a bomb attached to their body. Especially one that can create that much devastation, that much loss of life, and that much trauma to people. And this is what I mean. This is why this country riles me up so fucking badly. Because we shouldn't just bend over and take this shit. Yeah? As a nation, we are a very strong bunch of people, right? We don't take shit laying down. Yeah? We are very, very good at fighting back. And fighting back we should. Because it is about time we showed people that we're not going to allow shit like this to happen again. Granted, in modern times, it hasn't happened. And I say modern times, within the last like 5-6 years, nothing like this has happened. Nothing like this has happened since 2005. But 2005 is still far too recent for this shit to happen in the first place. It's not right. It's fucking disgusting. It makes me sick that it happened in the first place. Because why do we let it happen? Why are we a country whereby we are reactive rather than proactive? Why are we proactively stopping this shit from happening rather than just reacting to it when it actually does happen? Because that would have far better results, surely. What is wrong with us as a nation? Why do we allow scenes like this to happen on this very island? We're not a big country, I appreciate, but it shouldn't be happening. It's disgusting that it does. It's disgusting it's not taught in schools. It's disgusting it's not spoken about. I've spoken to both my niece and nephew who are actually in school right now. Said to both of them, did you do anything for like July 7th today? What are you talking about? Like, surely it's common sense. Even in the school, have a minute silence to remember people. It's a minute, 60 seconds. Like, you're not going to lose a lot of teaching time in that space of time, especially in a day and age where most kids don't give a shit about being taught stuff anyway. So why are we not having a minute silence when they start asking why? Explain to them what happened 20 years ago. Okay, yeah, they weren't alive 20 years ago. They also weren't fucking alive when pissing Henry VIII was cutting people's heads off. But we still tell them about that, don't we? So where's the difference? You know? I wasn't alive 400 years ago when Henry VIII was going around cutting heads off. I still got fucking taught about it. Where was I told about something that happened like 30, 40 years ago? Where we talk about the Falklands War? No. And it's disgusting. All of the UK is inbred. That's why they are crazy. No disrespect. If you've got nothing nice to say, then don't say nothing at all. It's a serious topic. We don't need your bullshit. So whoever you are, remove yourself from my channel. You're not welcome. Thank you very much. And keep your dirty, incestuous thoughts to yourself. But legitimate, right? And if you want to go down those rules, actually, then the whole world's fucking inbred, because if you go by the Bible, we all come back to Adam and Eve. So therefore, we've all been sleeping with each other's family the whole time anyway. So if you want to go down that route, go down that one. Yeah? If you really want to go down the incestuous flipping, everyone's inbred, there you go. That was a serious comment. The whole place is the size of my estate. Whether it is or not, we're not inbred. Yeah? So keep your childish comments to yourself, please. That's not acceptable. I'm not being funny. There's a look at how many people in America genuinely believed that planes flew into the World Trade Center and brought it to its knees. It's only been in the last 5 or 6 years that people in America were actually prepared to stop and listen and realize towers don't just fall like that with an act of terrorism. Doesn't happen. We've had terrorism on other areas of our country, on buildings, and they haven't fell down like the World Trade Center did. So quite frankly, goes to show, if we're that inbred, we build shit properly. But I'm not going to get in a debate about who's better, the Americans or the English, because we'll be here till fucking Christmas. But at the end of the day, ladies and gents, scenes like that and the scenes that's on your thumbnail for this very, very show should not happen. Should not have been allowed to happen, and definitely should not happen on these shores ever again. We need to stop being such a mollycoddled, like, cotton wool wrapped society and start doing more to stop shit like this happening again. Because it ain't right. But ladies and gents, that's all from me right now. We will be back on Wednesday with a update on how things are going and proceeding along with your editing of your 20,000 spoons challenge. That's been all for this July 7 Monday Funday special. We'll be back on Wednesday. But from me to all of you, this has been LindenTV. Miss it? Miss out.